Oh my goodness. Hi. Welcome to Warrior Men Wednesday. I'm beyond excited. Hello, I see you all coming in here. I know that this is a transformational conversation we're going to have. We're going to break generational curses today. And I am so excited. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Warrior Wednesdays. I see Dr. Lori Johnson is in the building, our fertility mental health coach. Thank you for joining Phenomenally Autistic. I see you here today. Her normal, that's Nichelle Polston. Hello, how are you? Hi, everybody. Ryan Vincent Ford, how are you? I am so excited. Come on into Warrior Wednesdays, the men edition. I'm just going to wait for a couple more people to get into the room because this is such an important conversation, probably one of the most important conversations I will ever have the honor to hold space for. And I am so grateful that these beautiful Black men, these beautiful Black kings that stand beside us are willing to openly share their experience going through the infertility journey. And it is just, y'all, this is how the healing begins. And it starts with us creating a safe space for this type of conversation to have. Hello, and she shall reign. What's going on, everybody? Okay, so you know how we usually do hearts and flowers in the chat. Today we're going to do some crowns. And I want to see some fists for the kings that are in the room coming on today. So hopefully Mama Stu is here. You guys tell me where you are from so everybody knows. There's Mama Stu. She says, hi, Boomerang. So Mama Stu's in the building. So I know, there's a bunch of Black mamas here. So this space is going to be very safe. And if not, these mamas will take care of things like Nichelle Polston, Regina Townsend. I know she'll be in here soon. From the Broken Brown Egg, we got, like I said, Dr. Lori Johnson is in the building. This is just super, super, super amazing. Oh my God, somebody from Berlin is here. Hi, Berlin. How are you? I know my homegirls from the UK are here and going to keep it up. Detroit is in the building. DC is in the building. I love it. You guys, welcome. Thank you. Pin a friend. Tell them to come in. Let's get to the men. Okay, so here we go. The first man, the first king that I am going to bring on today, he said yes right away. And what I love about his yes is that he's been a part of the Warrior Wednesday community because he supported his wife, Miss Beautiful Ebony Ford, as she told her story and her fertility journey, welcoming her preemie baby into the world, and her name is Rain. So Ryan is a musician. Hold on a second. Musician. He has an LP, Jesus the Same. It was released independently in 2018. So you can search for Ryan Vincent Ford and in ministry, and you can see it there. He also has something else called He Brought Joy to the World. That was a Christmas song that was released in 2020, and he has his first album coming out the summer of 2021, which is soon. So we're going to welcome him without further ado, and we're just going to get to it. So let me find Ryan Vincent Ford to come on in to the building. Listen, we got to get this talk going. I'm so excited. Okay, he's going to be coming on in any second now. Vanessa, hey.
Hey there.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am blessed. I am honored. I feel humbled by the experience to be able to talk to you three beautiful men about infertility. You know, this is one of the things that women have the face of, and you men are a part of that. And often it's not in the broader conversations, and that has to stop, and it's going to start today. We are starting that today, are we not?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We're stopping it today.
I want to thank you again. Now, for those that are joining for the first time, Ebony Ford was on, and when she was talking about her fertility journey, she said, there go my husband flirting in the comments. This is the husband, y'all. What I love about it is that you were flirting with your wife while she's talking about some of the most,
Trying to throw her off.
right, trying to throw her off, just a winking at her, honey. And I was like, now this is black love, because she's talking about some of the most traumatic and hard experiences in her life. And you were still there. You are still there, believing God and believing all the things, flirting with her. And it was after that live that I asked you to do this, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it was. And one of the things that we talked about was God and faith. And so now the way I grew up, when it was time for Sunday dinner, my dad said the prayer. And you are a gospel artist. And what I'm going to ask we do today to start this off is, will you pray for us? Will you, as a man, will you create the space and ask God to be here with us?
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you, King.
Some fathers would probably say, every head bowed, every eye closed.
Mine is doing it. Mine's doing it. All right,
God,
y'all.
we want to just come and tell you thank you, first and foremost, God, for this opportunity, God. We thank you, God, for this brand new day that you've given us, God. It was a day that we've never seen before, God. It was a moment, this very moment, God, that we've never seen before, God, and you've allowed us to see it at this very moment, God. We just ask, Lord, that you would just come into this space, God, even as we are conversing about men and infertility and mental health and all things pertaining to generational curses, God. We just ask that your spirit, God, would be felt through this conversation. God, we pray, oh God, this would glorify you, God, and we also pray, God, that it would help so many of those that are on this live right now, oh God, those that have been silent maybe for a little too long and are ready to open up and really address their wounds, God. We pray, oh God, that this will bring you glory above all else. It is in your name we pray these things. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I needed to do that.
Yeah.
I needed to start this in prayer because, I'm so grateful to be a vessel, but none of this is about me and none of this is even about you. It really is about him. But I do want to talk the specifics about your journey. So tell me, did you always want to be a father?
I did. So my timeline was just always way off because, when I was younger, I was just, be young for as long as you can, try to push out the responsibilities a little bit and just enjoy life, especially, in your 20s. But I always did want to begin a legacy. Legacy was always at the forefront of my mind. Like, what would my kids look like? What would my son look like? What would my daughter look like? Am I going to have as many as 5 or 6 and just maybe all of them go into music and we all just go on tour and be a big band or what have you. So, I could kind of conceptualize in my own mind what my family would look like. It being possible as soon as it was, that part was kind of hilarious because I just always thought, oh, well, I'm going to have my first child at 40. What? So my timeline was that, when I get good and grown, get into full adulthood and get the rhythm going and stuff, maybe I'll have a child at like 45, 50.
Right. Because men
wait.
often want to have every piece of the puzzle together before it's time to be a father. And in that, so as you were courting Miss Ebony, I know you're on here, girl. One of the things that my father would always say is that, and he will say this about my mother today, is that he wanted to be with her because he knew she would be a good mother because of the relationship she had with her mother. Does that factor in? Did that factor in for you when you were courting your now wife?
So when I met Ebony, well, let me say this. When I realized that she was the one.
Come on now. Tell us. Teach us.
when I realized she was the one, I had absolutely no doubt in my mind that she would be an excellent mother. And that made me confident more than anything else that it would work. Building a family would work because, she's just she's on here flirting with me now.
I know she is. She said, my turn. Hey, cutie, y'all. That's what she's doing. So she is just an amazing mother. And yes.
Yes. But she's definitely an amazing mother. And how I was able to notice that was, so we were in church together and we were very active in church. And I would see how she was with the little kids. Like all of the kids just gravitated to her.
Yeah.
And I would see these um what they call it, maternal instincts just, arise out of nowhere. And I'm like, yo, she is really good with kids. Like girls, boys. I mean, especially the small ones.
Right.
The infants all the way up to the toddlers now. After that, I can't really speak to that. It gets a little frustrating with kids when they don't want to listen and they want to do their own thing or what have you. But for the most part, I could it was just not hard to see that she would be an excellent mother. And somehow she kind of made me confident that I would be an excellent father,
That
although
was
I
my
had some
next
doubts.
question. I'm glad that you said that, because I was going to ask you that. Because what is the moment that you started to feel secure before you became a father yourself in, because we all kind of, hopefully, if not always, but sometimes we kind of, as much as we can, prepare ourselves. Mama Stu always tells me, you are never prepared. You are, no matter how much you think you are prepared, you are never prepared. That sometimes you just got to trust and do it, right? But what is the process for you? So now we see Ebony over there and the kids are gravitating towards her. But what was the process for you as a man that said, you know what, I think I'm going to be a good dad. I want to be a dad, but am I a dad yet? Because sometimes we pray for things that we're not. In the single world, and hey,
Yeah.
because in the single world, we can pray, oh, God, please bring me my husband. But are you a wife?
Hmm.
And we haven't asked that question. So did you ask yourself that question? Am I a dad? Am I a father?
You really, in so many words, you almost just really hit the nail on the head with me as it relates to my answer, because I did ask myself, would I be a good father? And in short, because, I have a relationship with God and that's how me and God talk. In short, as a father, he told me, you have to grow up.
Mm.
You have to grow up. And I had a lot of growing up to do.
Mm-hmm.
Me being good with kids is great, but it's another thing when you're having to be responsible and be accountable and accept personal responsibility for the things that you do. And it's not so much that I was, still very much a kid or just didn't want to lock in or anything. There was just some things that really, really I needed to I needed to be on an accelerated path to really resolve and get
Mm-hmm.
straight prior to having kids, because I think that it is it can be an attractive thing to be a father, but the responsibility of it all is very much real.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with being able to sacrifice. It
Mm-hmm.
starts with being able to sacrifice, deny your wants, deny your, some of what it is that you think that you need, and being able to prioritize and focus on what matters. First things first.
First
And
things first.
so I really, he really took me on a journey, and caused me to grow up in certain areas of my life so that when a child came, I could measure up. Uh,
Mm.
does it make me perfect? Absolutely not.
Right, right.
But I'm able to measure up and I'm able to do what needs to be done, not just for my child, but I'm starting a family. And when you're starting a family, that's a whole nother dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
And it ties right into the whole generational curses matter. You bringing a child into the world is a generational curse breaker itself.
So,
And if you're not responsible, if you're not accountable, you'll be perpetuating some of the same generational curses and cycles that we were basically processed or um, built to break,
mm-hmm. Oh,
or,
wait a
or,
minute,
or, or
y'all.
taught to break.
Write that down. No, built to break. I
Built
think
to
the
break.
first thing you said was it. Is because we are here, then that is the promise that we are built to break the generational curses. Now we have free will, right? So we can decide how or if we are going to do the work that you are talking about, growing up, which is really, in my opinion, my personal opinion, emotional maturity, knowing
Mm.
who you are, knowing what your triggers are, knowing the things that the childhood traumas that we've dealt with, and how we have learned behaviors that are not our fault.
Yeah.
but are our responsibility
Yes, ma'am.
as we grow into who we are as individuals, who we are as friends, who we are as business people, who we are as partners, who we
Hmm.
are as wives and husbands and parents. So now we're here. You've done this process. You found her. She the one, and she gonna be a good mama. You've done some growth, and you're gonna be a good daddy. And then we try to have a baby. So I know the story because Ebony was here, but can you summarize for us? And don't leave anything out. Talk from your heart about y'all's journey, um, starting to have a baby.
Yes, ma'am. So we got married in 2012. Let me just go ahead and say we were young. We were both 25. Yes, we were.
That's good, honey. That's good. You all right? You all right?
We were 25. But when you think about it, you know, young doesn't necessarily equate to inexperienced or immature. In some cases, yes, it does. In others, maybe not. But we were very much young, very much in love.
Just pause right there because something that you said, which is amazing in the spiritual realm, because it doesn't necessarily mean that it's immature, and I agree. But also because we talk about fertility here, young doesn't necessarily equate to fertile.
Right,
And I
right.
just needed to pause in that moment because you brought up the fact that you're young. And there
Mm,
is a misconception and there is a huge myth, and I'll go back to it later, that
mm,
because somebody is young, male or female, it's going to happen and it's easy. There is a
mhm.
misconception that age means fertility. And we know that medically that is not always the case. So I just
Right.
needed to say that because, as you said, it doesn't mean immature. It also does not mean fertile. And we have to make sure that we are clear because in the dating world, there are men that don't date women my age because they think somebody that's 20 years old is guaranteed to give them a child. And
Mm.
they don't know. And this is why your story is so amazing. Okay, so y'all were young, 2012, getting married. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Got pregnant right off the bat. So we were expecting, and at 8 months, uh, basically had a stillborn. Um, it was crazy because
Flowers in the
I
comments,
just
y'all. Go ahead.
I never thought in a million years that. So I know that God is in control of everything, but I never imagined in a million years that He would write my story this way. And so I was baffled. I was like mind blown. I was like, stillborn. What? What does that mean? And it didn't really fully hit me um like I felt it should. But then again, you know, sometimes you don't know the thoughts of God and you don't know the ways of God. You can't necessarily put your finger on Him. One thing I knew was that He had a purpose behind it. And so having experienced that stillborn was traumatic. I just bluntly traumatic. It was very traumatic. Not traumatic in the sense that I was paralyzed and couldn't move, but traumatic in the sense that it's something that I'll just never forget. You just could never forget it. The
Hmm.
feeling, the moment, you just cannot forget it.
Hmm.
Um, and being a man of faith, you know, you believe that all things are working together, you know, for the good of them who love the Lord. That's scripture for those of you that know it. And so I stood on the word. I stood on what I knew. Um,
Hmm.
and later that year, we got pregnant again. And I said, God, you're amazing. You're a
Hmm.
miracle worker. And that He is,
Hmm.
only to find out 17 weeks later that she has a miscarriage.
Okay, I'm gonna pause you right there because the first thing I'm gonna say is I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry for your loss. And then I'm gonna ask everybody in here to put the rainbows up. Your daughter's name, who you were feeding this morning when I was talking to you on the phone, her name is Rain. And for those that know in the fertility community, when we suffer a loss, it's a rainbow baby. So you have now two beautiful rainbow babies, and we just want to lift them up as their father. You're their father. as you talk of their existence in this space.
That's right.
So I'm sorry for your losses, and God is real.
Mm-hmm.
So now we'll go back. So there you are, and 17 weeks.
17 weeks. And so you're basically, and this was all within a year of our marriage. So yeah,
Y'all, did
within it,
y'all hear that? Within a year of your marriage. Okay.
within a
Okay.
year of your marriage.
The test.
Now,
Hmm.
two 26-year-olds been married a little under a year, experienced 2 losses. And we're both just like, how?
Hmm. Hmm.
How? Sway.
How?
Yeah.
Right. Right. And were you
But
angry with God?
I, you know, I got there after a while. For a split second, I think I was just more so confused more
Okay.
than anything,
Hmm.
because like I said, we're young, and this is a common misconception. When you're young, like you're in your prime.
Hmm.
Shouldn't nothing be wrong with you? They
Right.
say. They say.
Hmm.
Shouldn't nothing be wrong with you? So by that time I'm just like, okay, whew, all right, God, I know you have purpose behind the first tragedy. I know you have just as much purpose behind this one. I have no clue what neither one of them are,
Hmm.
but we're just gonna walk with you and try to figure this out. Um, and when I tell you confusion, for me as a man, confusion never feels good at all,
I need
because
I need to pause on that too, because when you said as a man, because men are mainly socialized to be able to keep everything together. You need to be the safe place for your partner, the safe place for her to land. And these are things that are out of your control.
mhm,
And so when you say something like that, that the confusion was the, as a man, how am I the rock of this union in this? So
yeah.
how was that? Can you speak from the male perspective about grieving with your wife, holding her through that, and your perspective in that union? Tell us as a man how it felt.
So as a man during that process, it was, first of all, being a newlywed in that particular process, and then being a man. It was all just really brand new. It was
Mm-hmm.
brand new. Like, there's nobody that could have written a manual for me to understand enough what grieving to that magnitude is like, especially when you just got married.
Mm, mm,
And if you know anything about, having a wedding and being a newlywed, you have this period where there's just wedded bliss and marital bliss. And while our relationship was experiencing that, we had these tragedies that, like you said, were out of our control.
mm-hmm,
Men don't like to be out of control.
mm-hmm,
We
mm-hmm,
don't like that.
mm-hmm,
We don't like confusion. And that confusion right there, trying to figure out where it's coming from without asking certain questions, and just digging too deep into it, and trying to support, my wife, and trying to hold myself up at the same time.
mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. I had to learn very quickly that strength is not always um, predicated or defined by how much you carry, but what you able to endure.
Ooh.
And that it literally took me a minute. It took me a long while to realize that, because the tragedy didn't end there. We had just you know came across the first year of our marriage, and we were celebrating. Listen, we made it a year, and we've made it through some things that a lot of other married couples probably would have called it quits on in
Yeah,
a heartbeat.
yeah, yeah.
And so let's celebrate the fact that even though we feel at our weakest, we are strong because we endured.
Woo! Woo! You freed somebody right there.
We endured.
Somebody right there. You endured. You chose to endure too.
Yeah, it was a choice, and it was a choice that we had to make because our lives depended on it. And as a man, my life depended on it. My mind depended on it.
Ooh!
It really did.
Your mental health depended on it.
Yeah.
Amen. And it was a choice.
Absolutely.
And so you journey through the second loss.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens?
So we go on and just we reconcile the fact that, you know, we just experienced these two losses, and it thankfully it really not only brought us closer together, but it brought us as a unit closer to God, because we're like, okay, you know, we're early on, like from jump, we understand that there are things that are out of our control, but as long as you're in the center of our relationship, as long as you're in the center of our marriage, we can get through anything. You'll give us the strength. Your strength is made perfect in our time of weakness. So if we can't hold on to anything else, we'll hold on to you. Yes, we're hurting. Yes, we're grieving, but we'll hold on to you, and we'll do it together. So when Ebony's feeling a certain kind of way, I can grab her because I'm holding on to him. Mm-hmm. When I'm feeling a certain kind of way, she can grab me because she's already got a hold of him. Mm-hmm. And when it seems like we're both slipping, we know that at some point, God will draw himself back to draw us back to him. Mm-hmm. and strengthen us in that manner. So we go on, and seems like, you know, life is kind of piecing together a little bit in terms of trying to reconcile the pain in our hearts of not just being able to have a child right now. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the year 2015 rolls around, boom, we get pregnant with twins. And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. Wait. Mm-hmm. What do you mean? And so the way that my wife told me, she tried so hard to keep it from me. What she did a very good job keeping it from me, and surprised me on, I want to say it was Father's Day of that year. I had to preach that morning, and she surprised me at the services. So I was shocked. I was like, wait a minute, I'm having twins. And so, of course, I'm like overjoyed. I'm like, yes, the Lord will give you double for your trouble. Yes,
right. It's the stories being written. Exactly.
Like the stories being written. Like he is in full control of it.
She says it was Father's Day. Ebony's on here. She said it was Father's Day.
It was Father's Day. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we get pregnant with twins, and I'm excited. And I'm like, I sure do hope they're boys, because 2 girls, I'm not sure. But however you bless me, Lord, I'll be satisfied. Well, the Lord heard my prayers, and it turned out to be 2 boys, and they were identical. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have 2 twins probably looking just like me, running around, only to find out that at 21 weeks, that just was not going to be a reality anymore. And that's the moment that I got angry with God. That's the moment. That right there was the breaking point. So I was like, are you kidding me right now?
Mm-hmm. Because some things seem too impossible to be that unfair. So again, let me say, I'm sorry for your losses. Yes. We have, rainbows are coming back. Every time I say rainbow, I'm saying part of Rain's name. Rain is their daughter's name.
Yeah.
But I just want to say sorry and thank you. And the rainbows are here. So our Rain that's with us, that you get to hold in your arms and feed every day, has now 4 angel siblings. Mm-hmm. And you are the father of 4 angel babies. Mm-hmm. And tell me now, like you said, that's when I got angry with God. Tell me about that anger.
Yeah, I got angry with God because I considered myself to be faithful in my relationship with him. Mm-hmm. I went to church, I served, I sang, I play,
Mhm.
gave tithes and offerings, and I gave, I felt like I gave him, or I was giving him
Everything.
everything that I had prior to even being blessed with the twin boys. I gave the Lord my life as best as I could. Did I always make the right decisions? No. Did I always do things the right way? No.
Mhm.
Was my heart for God? Absolutely. And for that reason, I gave him everything that I had,
Mhm.
through my music ministry, through, times where I was asked to speak or to preach, serving the community, however I possibly could. Whether it was serving God through loving my family, serving God through loving my wife. Like my heart was really in it to please him
Mhm.
through all of that. And in the back of my mind, I had this prayer like, Lord, I really want to be a father. I
Mhm.
really want this to happen. I really want this to happen. And I understand that it's not time yet. But here it is. I've been blessed with two boys, and you snatched them from me?
Come on.
And you snatched them from me? Now, I don't want anybody to be caught off guard with the way that I'm talking about God, because my God and I have an amazing relationship. And this is how I was talking to God, because I understand that I'm a son and he's a father.
Come on.
And if I know anything, I know that God knows what it feels like to have your own seed on the cross, dying before your eyes.
Oh,
So I'm just like, do I, what, how much more pain can I feel? What, how? We've, I can't explain. There's an unexplainable pain behind making 3 pregnancy announcements
oh.
within a span of a couple of years publicly, and have it being snatched from you. Or I should say, feel like it's being snatched from you.
I have to pause. I need everybody to put some prayer hands up because, sir, you are preaching and you are anointing, and you said you are a son and God is a father. So if anybody knows what it feels like to have their seed on the cross, that almost took me off of this live. I almost took my phone off of my tripod and threw it,
Mm, yeah, it's real.
because for you to be that clear of your connection with God in that moment is such saving, amazing grace.
Mm,
I have said to people before on this uh, talk that I don't know if I would have had that kind of strength. I pray that I would. I'm grateful that you did. I'm so grateful that you did, and that you are able to. Because what you just said in that moment, you are a son and God is a father, just freed somebody in here
mm,
to be able to know that that moment of God also having a seed on the cross.
yeah.
So just thank you for the words. So you're angry, and he snatched, as you said, 3 pregnancy announcements. Tell me about that feeling, because when you're giving the 3 pregnancy announcements, you're also getting the baby shower invites, right? You're
Mm,
also getting, you know what I'm saying? You're also going to the first and second birthday parties. So Ebony talked about it a little bit. The warrior women, we talk about it. But as a man, how does it feel? How does it feel for you to have those? Are those triggers for you? Were they triggers for you?
I have to be completely honest, because I really do feel like my honesty and transparency is really going to help
Yes.
some other men. If I can be completely honest, the pain of it all was indescribable.
Mm.
It was indescribable. I mean, there's I felt like there was no worse feeling than putting it out there, being celebrated in public, and people who have known our story over the years and have seen, us have to go through and then see me at a service singing my heart out to God, like all is well, and almost like nothing ever happened. Um, Sometimes I felt like that really could have been an illusion, but inside I was hurting, and I was trying to find a means to ease the pain, whether it was music, whether it was throwing myself into, some church functions, whether it was throwing myself into preaching, whether it was throwing myself into playing, creating music. I was really trying to find an avenue to find some level of therapy. And I really wish, if anything, I wish I had enough strength to step foot in a therapist's office, because there is this stigma,
Speak on it.
especially in our faith, that receiving therapy or counsel is futile, and they want to call the pain demonic. No, the pain is traumatic. The pain is due to trauma. There's nothing demonic about it. There's nothing wrong with us. I'm hurting. I'm grieving. I just had 3 pregnancies. I just had 2 girls and 2 boys at the same time snatched away from me. And I'm angry. Why would that be demonic? Oh, you don't understand because you've probably never dealt with it. So
right. Right.
It was really man, it was hard. Sometimes it's hard to describe it and come up with words for it, because it's one of those pains that if you literally could just sit on the couch and moan to make yourself feel better, that's probably what I would have done. If I could have sat in the corner in fetal position for hours at a time, because I felt like in my mind I was going crazy, if I felt like that would have helped me, I promise you, I probably would have done that. And as I told you earlier, I just, angry with God, I was literally like on a thin thread of my sanity and maybe like a couple minutes away from snap. And I was just like, God, you have to tell me something. I can't go into the doctors and getting halfway explanations of, oh, this happened or that happened. Or even, I remember one time on my birthday, I took my wife to an appointment. And I pray she doesn't hurt me for this, but I took her to an appointment with her doctor just so we could get her checked out, because mentally we were ready to try again. Or at least, entertain the idea of, maybe we shouldn't, completely walk away from it. Maybe it's possible, but let's just make sure that you're healthy and make sure that you're okay. So I always advocated for her health, regardless. I never wanted to put her through anything that could potentially kill her or make her uncomfortable or cause pain or anything. Let's just go get you checked out and see what the problem could be. And I remember a doctor telling her right in front of my face, it just looks like you can't have kids. To thine own self be true. I said, wait a minute, I've heard that somewhere before.
Oh,
Thine own self be true. Get thee behind me, Satan. We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
right.
We're not doing, you don't know. You don't get to tell my wife, to thine own self be true. Did you know that she had been pregnant time and time before? Did you know that? Did you ask? No. You just assumed that she couldn't do it because she told you that she has, these health issues or this going on or that going on. You just automatically assumed that it couldn't be done. And the God in me, the King in me, had to rise up and speak life to her directly, because I felt like what the doctor told her completely killed her faith.
Oh,
completely.
Y'all put the
Why would you
crowns
even
up.
say that, like,
Right.
in front of us?
Right.
In front of me? Are you
Right.
serious?
Right.
No.
But
and then I gotta go home.
This is such an example of when being a man of faith and being a partner, being a real helpmate, like you said, I had to speak life over my wife and get behind these Satan. Because the reality is, and we talk about this a lot, that we have to advocate for ourselves in
Yeah.
these doctors' offices. That
Yeah.
oftentimes we can take a doctor's advice or what they are saying to us, and if that doesn't speak into your listening, if that bumps against what faith and what God told you about the thing, you have every right. And actually, you have the obligation to denounce the thing that doesn't sound like God coming out of somebody else's mouth. I don't
Mm-hmm.
let everybody speak into my fertility journey. I don't let everybody speak into my life. And you,
Mm-hmm.
as a man, being her husband and seeing that that was breaking her, I have to commend you. There's a bunch of crowns coming up here. And Regina Townsend says, and remind them that we know who and whose we are, period.
Mm-hmm.
And that happening. So I bless you, number one, for describing that pain to us, because one of the things I just want to mention is that that is how we get closer to God, you
Yeah.
know, because when we're with God in the celebratory times, it is great. And it's thank you, God, but it's easy. But when
Mm-hmm.
we really hear him, when he really starts to mold us into who we need to be able to say something like, God had a seed on the cross too. That's because you went through that pain. That's because you went through that moaning on the couch. And the reason that we on this chat can all relate to it is because a lot of us have been through that pain too. There's a lot of people in these comments that have gone through miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage. And right now, y'all are connected in a way that, you know what I'm saying, that only this moment, breaking a generational curse, can happen. So I hope, King, that you see all of these crowns coming up onto you. And
Yes.
I thank you for being so transparent about that. And now I just need to go, because we're going to bring on Khalil next. And I just need to go. So we have beautiful Rain
Yes.
coming into the world. And she even had a tricky delivery. Rain is a preemie.
Mm-hmm.
So you had 4 rainbow babies and then a little teeny tiny one
Yes.
who defied y'all all the now see, and this actually links, Ryan, because you didn't take what that doctor said to your wife.
Right.
And the doctors thought that Rain might not be able to make these milestones. How
Mm-hmm.
how many pounds was Rain when she was born?
She was 1 pound and 15 ounces.
I need y'all to hear that. The baby was 1 pound and 15 ounces. A
Mm-hmm.
pound and 15 ounces. And Rain made every milestone, did she not?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
Didn't they say she wasn't going to come out screaming?
She didn't. They told us that every complication that was possible was likely. And I said, okay, that's cute. Let's just sit back and watch God. Let's just do that, huh?
Right.
Let's just do that. Sit back and watch God. And she defied every odd.
She
Absolutely.
defied every odds. So
Mhm.
you became, again, father of 4 in heaven and a father of 1 here on earth so far. And
Yes.
how was it to finally hold your daughter and your wife in your arms, that this journey is now here with Rain? How was that?
Every tear was worth it all. It was worth it all. It was worth it all. I didn't really understand the magnitude of the process or the journeying of the growing up, as I had aforementioned. The being able to grow up, I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe I just need to be more responsible. Maybe I just need to be a bit more accountable. No, I needed to, as you said, understand my obligation and understand that obligation is directly attached to the authority given to me to speak over my family.
Mm, mm,
And that's exactly what I did. Every time they came to me and said, well, your daughter's in the okay, all right.
mm.
Scare them. I would go over and over the rain, be like, okay, baby, come on, let's go. Let's show them. Let's show them. Let's show them. And I knew Rain was something special when the nurses told me that they, as my wife was, in the procedure or what have you, they were going to get her and she ran. And I'm like, oh, so she got attitude. Oh, she's gonna be all right. Pull on out. Pull her on out. Okay,
Right.
she's gonna be all right.
Yeah. And
I got
every And every tear was worth it. Every tear was
Every
worth it.
tear was worth it. Absolutely.
Well, before I let you go, and what's so amazing is you talked to me earlier on the phone about mental health and having an outlet,
Hmm.
and how your music helped get you through some of those times on the couch where you wanted to moan. But before
Hmm.
I let you go, having experienced everything that you have as a man, again, what can you offer to a man that might be going through something similar, to a man that hasn't yet been able to process the questions, to process how this is going to be used for purpose later, um, going through infertility in a pairing on your own? Like, what can you offer somebody that really needs to know it's going to be okay?
Yeah, I just want the men to know that you experiencing pain or grief or confusion or fear, much like I have experienced, none of those experiences make you any less of a man. They don't make you any less of a man. Going and getting help doesn't make you any less of a man. Being able to admit that you feel weak at times doesn't make you any less of a man. It doesn't. It is okay to not be okay. It's all right. It's all right. And your strength will never be defined by how much you carry, because what you carry could crush you, no
Oh,
matter how much strength you have. But if you're able to endure and be able to draw in resources and things like, uh, therapeutic circles, or even having friends that might understand, a community that might understand what it is that you're going through,
mm-hmm,
there's nothing wrong with reaching out for help. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Sometimes I wish I would have done it. But
mm-hmm,
when you go through certain things like that, you feel misunderstood and you feel like nobody really fully completely understands.
mm-hmm.
And that's just not the case. There's a whole world of people that are probably going through the exact same thing that you're going through, and they're
Mm-hmm.
men. So
And
we
they're
all need
men.
each other. We all need each other.
We all need each other, and we all need you. The warriors need you. This is a highly populated world, being in the infertility world. So there's no reason to feel isolated. But you being here today and saying everything that you just said, I just want to honor you and thank you and salute you, for breaking generational curses today. Because what's really beautiful is that Rain gets to see not just her mommy, but her daddy.
Hmm.
Talk about her siblings, talk about the journey to her, talk
Hmm.
about all the milestones, and talk about mental health, talk about the pain, and
Yeah,
talk about the faith. She gets
absolutely.
to watch this one day, probably today. So I want to say thank you to you. And my brother is here saying, I'm so proud of this brother. He is truly a real man with emotions,
Oh,
and all of the crowns are going up. So thank you so much for being here with us. This is Ryan Vincent Ford, everybody. I need you to go look him up. Jesus the Same is released independently in 2018, and you have an album coming out in 2021, correct? You want to
yes, I
tell
have an album coming out this summer. Yes, ma'am.
us the name of it? Do we have a name of the LP yet or not yet?
Oh, it's going to be self-titled, so it'll be very easy to find.
It'll be Ryan Vincent Ford, y'all. So I'm
Yes.
so happy. Thank you for being here. I love you, friend.
Thank you
Thank
for
you, King.
having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, King. All right, you guys.
Take care.
So thank you, baby. All right. So Ryan is gonna X out, and then we are going to. Ooh, y'all, I hope that you felt all of the life that was. So now we are going to bring on, my dear friend, my dear new friend, Khalil Polston. And Khalil is the husband of the beautiful Nichelle Polston that you guys know here as Her Normal. She's also on the board of Resolve, which is the National Infertility Association, and doing a whole lot of work that's coming up in April for National Infertility Awareness Week. And you're going to see your girl on that too. So, Khalil and I, we've talked. We've all been on three-way FaceTimes. We've talked. And he's here to share his part in the journey. So we're going to just bring him on. Hold on a second. Where is he? Let me see. Boom. Okay. Let me see if he's gonna come soon. I hope I did that right. Hold on, you guys. Let me just make sure I did it right. Did I do it right? There he is.
What's up, Kels? How you doing?
How are you, friend?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm all right.
Glad
Loving the weather out here. It's pretty warm, so
it's pretty
can't
warm.
complain.
I
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
Tell everybody where you are at, friend.
I am in Wilmington, Delaware right now.
Wilmington,
Yep.
Delaware.
Sitting in the dining room of the house.
It's in the dining room of the house. Well, I have to thank you for being with us here today because you're sitting in the chair that often your wife is usually
Yes. Yes. I
sitting
have to
in.
use her background backdrop and the whole kit and caboodle.
You,
So
you know how
she
this
set
is.
it up for me. You know that, right?
I know she set it up for you. I know she did. Mama Stu is here saying, "Oh, my neighbor." Yes, Mom, they are your neighbors. So, Khalil, man, we've
Yeah.
been talking on FaceTime every now and then,
Uh-huh.
after Ryan agreed to be a part of it, I asked you and Michelle even suggested, and I want to say thank you to you. And let me just start off by asking you about wanting to be a dad. Have you always wanted to be a father?
Yeah, as I got older, maybe in my early 20s, I thought about being a father. So I didn't want it in my 20s, though. I
Hmm.
didn't want to struggle. So I wanted to find the right woman, which is my wife.
Hmm.
So I wanted to get married because I'm the youngest of three. So my
Okay.
brother and sisters was married. So they pretty much paved the way. I was following in their footsteps. Um, but yeah, I always wanted to be a father.
You
I
always
always
want to
had
be a
it. Yeah, I had it in me.
You had it in you.
Yep.
And then you find the one. It's kind of similar to what Ryan was saying. Was part of your process in that is thinking or knowing or believing and having the feeling that Nichelle herself would be a great mom, as I know that she will one day soon be.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When I'll tell you a quick story, right?
Okay.
So on our first date, she paid for her own movie ticket, but she was moving too fast. I was gonna pay for it, but she paid her own ticket. So I was like, okay, I like this. And then when we really started dating, I went to go visit her and she made me food. She was the first woman that ever cooked for me.
Hmm.
So that hit a soft spot in my heart.
So
So I knew that, yeah, I knew that I would treat her serious.
you knew your chick because she's the first
Hmm.
first woman that ever cooked for you.
Besides my mom, my grandma, my sister, but I'm talking about the first woman that I dated that
Okay.
cooked a meal for me.
That cooked a meal for you. I love
Yes.
it. Okay, Nichelle. Now I know she's listening. I know she's not far away. So, and you're gonna have to cook for him tonight, friend.
she keeping me comfortable right now.
I love it. And you know what? I'm glad that you even said that. And the reason I'm glad is because what makes us brave and courageous is stepping outside of our comfort zone. So I really want to say that I'm glad that you said she's keeping you comfortable. That's her job. That's what she should be
Mm-hmm.
doing. But I also want to commend you for stepping out of your comfort zone to have this conversation about infertility and the journey that you are currently on, right? So you two are currently on the journey. Can you give us just a little bit of insight into what the journey has been so far once you decided to start trying for a baby?
Okay, so we got married in 2009 in Jamaica. So that was a blast right there. But we knew that we wasn't going to try to start having kids until 2 to 3 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So we actively started trying in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so say like a year and a half go by, 2 years. That's when, well, first we tried and then nothing would happen. So after a couple of years of trying, that's when we started seeking fertility help. So we went to the doctors, and that first experience there at that facility, it was just like we were just another number. That's the way how I felt. So it
Mm-hmm.
was like, get us in. This is what you have to do. So we followed what we thought was right by their instructions. We come back on the, just to get some more information from them, and then they change everything up. So the doctor that was supposed to treat us, she didn't even treat us. She was just there for like our pretty much interview, and everything else was just like the nurses or somebody else. So we went through that for maybe like a year.
So you
And
had an experience. I'm just going to back up just to clarify. So you had an experience where you went to a fertility clinic, and when you say that do what you needed to do, was doing what you needed to do, was that testing? Did both you and Nichelle have to go through some testing to find out whether or not, or what the reason was
yeah,
that you hadn't gotten pregnant yet?
yeah. So what they told us was unexplained infertility.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we were diagnosed with, which can mean an array of things, but they didn't pinpoint anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they told us.
Mm-hmm.
So we just followed through and kept on trying to do the IUIs,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it was no success. You
Okay,
know,
so
so
I'm gonna tell the folks that are just joining maybe for the first time or don't know what you just said, and I'm glad that you know it. IUI is an intrauterine insemination, and
yeah,
so basically what that means is that Nichelle and you had to go through like a semen analysis test and had to test everything with her as well, and then an intrauterine insemination, y'all, is kind of a step before IVF. It's a way that they use a catheter and they take the sperm and they actually insert the catheter in the woman to then, eject the sperm out and hopefully to inseminate. So it's kind of just, it's a little bit of assistance, but without the
right.
need of the actual, well, I think there's some medications that go on, but it's not
Yeah, it
quite,
was.
it was some medications, right? So
Yeah.
Nichelle had to go through some shots with that.
Uh, I don't remember if she went through some shots, but she had to take like a couple of pills to make her ovulate.
Mm-hmm.
So when we thought she was ovulating, there were times that she wasn't ovulating.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to the doctors to get the whole procedure done, the IUI, and it was just like a waste. You know, we're
Mm-hmm.
paying money, insurance didn't cover it, so we're paying out of pocket at that time. The IVF was, it was like $10,000 to $15,000 a pop, which
Mm-hmm.
insurance doesn't cover
Mm-hmm.
at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So IUI was the next best thing for us to try.
Now let me ask you this from the male perspective. That from the male perspective, once you learn, okay, we're going to have to use assisted reproduction. We're going to have to use some science here in a different way to conceive a child. What was that like for you in the decision-making process, in the marriage process, and in the process of okay, this isn't happening the way I may have anticipated or always thought it would before I got married?
It was rough. I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. I wasn't accustomed to that. Going to the doctors, gotta go in a room and give them my semen
Mm-hmm.
so they can put it in the catheter and inject her. I was against it, but
Oh.
my wife talked me into it. I felt like a guinea pig, like just not human. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Just it was a feeling I can't put it in any other kind of words, but I just felt like it wasn't a good feeling.
I'm
So
glad that you did put it in words, because
mm,
because what because I think that what happens is part of the reason that we suffer in silence, is because these experiences feel out of our norm. So when you
yeah,
say like I felt like a guinea pig, it
hmm
reminds me of putting the shots in my belly because I did the first round of IVF to freeze, that I felt like a little bit like this was too much science and not enough romance. You know what I
yeah,
mean? For me, I was alone in it, except Mama Stu was here helping me. So we tried to make it fun. For you, you were with your wife, but even still, it like you said, you were against it and you guys had
yeah.
to come to terms with it. So how was that? Because it's so beautiful to have these men, to have you here, Khalil. It's so beautiful. How was the decision making process? Did it strengthen you? Did it, in terms of your marriage, like how do we, because part of this talk is to help us be able to support men in this process and to hear their voice in it, and so that other men can relate. Um, how did it start? How was the decision for you and Nichelle? How did it feel in the marriage for you?
So the decision process, we probably talked about it, and I was against it. So it probably took a couple months until, I caved in and was like, all right, we're going to give it a shot, see what happens. Okay. I've been educating myself off the internet, reading stories around that time. So just to get a better grip on what's going on. So it went through all of that, and it didn't happen. So when it didn't happen, like we didn't get pregnant, we didn't conceive, it was rough. I didn't express it, I didn't show it, or anything. I didn't talk about it, but my wife talked about it often. So she would think that I don't have any compassion or no sympathy or anything, but I was hurt inside, So I would tell her that, but she expresses her emotions differently. With me, it's just like a quick sentence here or there, So I would say, like, I feel empty or incomplete, less than. So that's the way I felt, and we've dealt with it. We've dealt with it for some time.
Y'all put some crowns up, because this is vulnerability. And this is what you're doing right now is so important. And I want to salute you and I want to honor you. Ryan is saying to you, I totally get that right there. And he said earlier, when you were talking about feeling like a guinea pig, I saw him put up, it's completely understandable, man, because this is somebody else that's been through it. But for you to even say, I didn't feel complete.
Yeah.
We as women, when our bodies don't do what they're quote unquote supposed to do, we feel like a failure. So for you to express the same sentiment, what it really does is it helps us understand y'all better, and that we're not alone in that. So there's a bunch of crowns coming up for you. I hope you can see them, because y'all,
Khalil, this is all new for me too, just to let you know. Social media, all of this is all new for me, but I see it. It's
Khalil is not even on Instagram, y'all. He's on Nichelle's account. So that's how. This is why I'm so happy you're here, because this is really out of your norm. Nichelle does this all the time.
She lives in the cyber world.
She lives in this space. And Ryan says, Alicia Jones, who took the picture. If y'all saw the picture of the man's face that had the tape around that said infertility, this is the model that was, and Alicia Jones Design took that picture, you guys. She's on the comments here. Follow her. She says, sending love to my brother, a true king. And yes, you are. So I just want to thank you for being very transparent and saying that it made you feel incomplete in a way, because you know that you're complete. You know you are, and sometimes when we're going through it, we don't know that. But I'm here to remind you, as your sister and as your friend, just how complete you are, and that you are part of the norm. That assisted reproduction is happening to so many of us. But without this type of moment, with you speaking this truth, a lot of us don't hear it. And so we're here, we're feeling incomplete, and it wasn't working. And so we know, and well, a lot of people don't know the statistics about infertility and male factor infertility. And that 1/3 of anybody with sperm and with an egg trying to have a baby, 1/3 is male factor infertility, 1/3 is female factor infertility, and 1/3 is a combination of both. And then there is unexplained. Can you elaborate on anything that you've learned in that world, having gone through this process and still going through it?
Right. So my wife gets all of the information and she shoots it to me. So I'm going to be honest with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's So let me see. So the unexplained infertility was still at that time a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
So for years, that was what we thought, um, going around seeing people and people ask you, you have any kids? And it's, I tell them the truth, like, no, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
They ask me how long I've been married. I tell them how long I've been married. And, it's the women that ask more so than the men. If a man asks me if I have any kids, and it's like, no, it's like, how long you been married? Like, such and such. Like, all right, it'll happen. Like, yeah, it'll happen when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But the women kind of dig in a little deeper, so we tell them that we tried, we've been trying, it just hasn't happened. So we got to rely on science,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so.
And that's not an easy answer to give, and it shouldn't be a question that is asked. Now,
Right.
I do want to say, because I have to pause with that. I'm glad that you brought it up, okay? Because there's certain people like me, like Regina Townsend. Is she in here? Broken Brown Egg. Yeah, there she is. See, she's already on it. The audacity
I
that
see
people
it. I
have.
see it.
There's certain people like me that will straight up tell somebody to mind your business. Now, y'all don't have to do the way that me and Regina may sometimes do. You could do it in a much nicer way. But I'm glad that you brought up the fact that people would ask you questions, because what people don't understand is that it's triggering. And what they don't know is that they are invading oftentimes your personal private life. And they're asking you questions that they do not have to deal with the consequences of the answer. And by that, I mean, there have been times where well-meaning people in my family will say to me, because I'm single, well, do you ever think of just doing it alone? Why don't you just get a sperm donor or ask a friend? And it'll always be a woman, and it'll always be somebody that already has children.
Right.
So then they will really never have to deal with the consequences of the question that they're asking. And what I want to offer you is how I have now been able to transform, is that people will often look at my circumstances and not look at my God. People will look at my circumstances and decide my fate for me. And that's not their job.
Right.
That's not their job, and I don't let them into that. So I have now decided to say none of your business, so that those questions stop coming my way, or the way I hear them. Because if someone says, do you have kids? I'll say, yeah, I have 29 and they're chilling in a freezer in El Segundo. Next question. So that they can see how, you know what I mean? So I can now change my answer and empower.
Yeah. You ready to throw down with that?
Hey, and empower my journey. Okay, so now where are you now as a man in the space of still being on the journey and dealing with the triggering questions and dealing with the unexplained infertility? Where are you now?
All right, so right now I'm in an easier place mentally, because I don't know if I was depressed, but I dealt with it the way I deal with it. I didn't express it to anybody like that. I still went out, talked to people, friends, family. So I know my wife, it weighed on her heart a lot more. So I felt bad for her. I felt really bad for her, because I guess she endured more questioning than I have. So I would hear it from her probably multiple times a week about, so, but going for, dealing with it, I stay active, go to the gym, do some martial arts, I just like to be out and about. So I think in 2019, we started again. So this fertility doctor, I remember the first interview that we had was a couple hours, and that feeling that I had, the feeling that I dealt with from the first fertility doctors, I felt a bunch of anger and a bunch of hate.
Ooh.
Like it was just raging inside me, because I know what I went through, I know what I felt, and I didn't want to feel like that again. So after the meeting, I talked to my wife. I told her how I felt. I felt like a cornered rat. I had nowhere to go. Not her fault, but that's just the way I felt.
Yeah.
So, but talking with this fertility doctor more, he knew what he was talking about. I believe what he was that he knew what he was talking about. He broke everything down to us. He wasn't rushing us. He took up his time with us. He talked to us like we were human beings and not just another, number, just so he can get paid. So so we're moving forward with the fertility treatments right now. I guess I'm pretty sure my wife told y'all that she's going through the fibroid procedure.
Myomectomy.
Yeah, myomectomy. I'm backing her 100%. So
Tell me about Red, Dan.
I will always back her.
Yes,
So,
you will. Yes,
so,
you will. And you sitting here right now today, Khalil, is you backing her. And it is you backing yourself. It is you giving permission to another brother to be able to speak out loud, because one of the things you said was that I didn't share. I didn't tell anybody, in your life, but you are sitting on a live Instagram show, talking and telling us your truth. And that is remarkable, friend. It's remarkable, friend. And it's not easy to do. Thank you. Thank you. And
I tell you,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll tell you this much. When you asked me, or you told my wife, and she asked me a couple weeks ago, I was like, yeah, I'll knock it out. There's nothing. But a few days ago, I'm like, I'm getting jittery and everything. I haven't been this nervous since probably when I got married.
But it's a good thing because it's completely normal. I don't know if we get to see, people are saying, there's a bunch of comments going on because everybody understands. People are saying remarkable. Thank you so much. Yes, this is support. This is empowerment. And it is because this is breaking the curse of suffering in silence. Right now, when you get off of this live, you're going to feel lighter. I promise you that, friend.
I believe it.
I promise you that you are going to feel lighter, because what we keep inside has control and power over us. And one of the things that you said that was really important that I also just want to touch on is that the other doctor, it sounds like, didn't speak to you in a way that felt like care.
Right.
Healthcare is not just about health, y'all. It's about care. And so what we have to advocate for, especially in something as tender and vulnerable as assisted reproduction, is knowing that if we go into a fertility clinic or an office visit and someone isn't speaking to you in a way that makes you feel supported and makes you feel like I have the end goal to put a baby in that belly one day, or to help you guys figure out how to do this, we move on to the next people, because there's so many health disparities that go on. And I know Nichelle, y'all, like I said, y'all look up Resolve, because Nichelle, his wife, is on the board, one of the board members, so she knows everything about the insurance and of IVF, every legislation that she's out there fighting for. She does all the things.
She's active.
Yes,
active.
But it is.
I'm proud of her.
What can happen in doctor's appointments like that is it can shape the way you think about this process. And that's not your fault that someone didn't speak to y'all with the care and the sensitivity and the empowerment that should have happened. But because you're explaining it now, what it does is it empowers you and others to know, I don't like the way this person talks. Let me move on.
Yeah.
And you being honest about, I didn't feel complete. There's another brother that says, Dad, neither did I. And that helps us all feel a little bit more human. So I'm going to bring up one thing before I let you go, and I'm going to bring on Jimmy Keys here. One thing is that when Nichelle was here, she talked about, as one of the warriors, that she had a baby blanket hidden in her closet. She was going to go to a baby shower, and it triggered her, and she didn't want to go. And she had this blanket that her mom gave her to use as a present, a baby blanket. And instead, she just put it in the back of the closet. And you were watching that episode, and you didn't know about this blanket. Can you tell us what happened at home?
Yes. Okay, so I think when she was live with you, I think I was still at work. So she played it back for me, and I'm listening. You know, it was a good interview. And then she talked about this blanket. I had no idea that this blanket existed. No idea. So I'm thinking, I'm sitting there, I'm like, since we doing it together, and I'm showing more sympathy now, and I'm believing in the process and the new doctor that we're dealing with, I asked her, can you put the blanket in my closet? So it could remind me of what will come.
I just want to say thank you for sharing. That makes me cry. What'd she say?
She brought the blanket down so y'all could see.
Y'all
you
see
know,
how
you know how she
Nichelle
is.
I know. There it is. Go ahead. I love it. I love it. Well, show this to Nichelle, because everybody knows I have a crystal egg. Everybody knows that I have a crystal egg with my mustard seed of faith in it, because I always tell women to like have a tangible object. Everyone's putting hearts up and everything like that, and crowns. And tell Nichelle I'll see her baby blanket and I'll raise her a baby booty. Tell her that.
Will do. There she goes. She's seeing it right now.
There she I raised you a baby booty. But I love the fact that you were watching the live and that you saw that Nichelle had a baby blanket in there, and that you didn't know about it. And you went to your wife and you said, can I take the blanket and put it in my closet? And one of the things I said to you on FaceTime after that was, wow, God was really there, because you needed to touch and agree with that blanket in order for y'all's future baby to be here. And because she had it alone, away from the baby daddy, Nichelle, that whole life, even though it blessed us in so many ways, it wound up blessing you in a way where you now knew that your wife has something that you wanted to hold on to.
Yeah.
So that you had the faith to believe that your future baby is coming, and she is.
Yeah.
And she is. So she's going to play with, your blanket's going to play with my booty, okay?
There we go. There we go.
Well, I love you, Ka, and I'm so glad that you came on here and you told us your truth. I thank you so much.
I still got to tell you one more part. So
yes.
The process that we went through, I think in January. So she got tested, she got seen by the doctor. So she's going through a myomectomy, right?
Yes, you got it. Myomectomy.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And they sent me the kit, the sperm donor kit, so called Rad Dad, which I didn't pay attention to the name, but my wife pays attention to everything. So it was an at-home sperm analysis that they send you. You refrigerate it before you do your thing. Then once you do that, you send it off to FedEx. So after she does her treatment, then I have some stuff. I got something to do on my own myself. So once we get that all squared away, then
we'll go on to the next step. And so in this COVID world, where you might go into the actual clinic for a semen analysis, now there's something called Rad Dad, where they actually send it home so that you can deposit your sample at home, which is another way to listen. Where there's a will, there's a way. That's what Rad Dad teaches me. Where there's a will, there's a way, and then there's support also in that environment at home. So thank you for sharing with us while you're on the journey. Y'all put some prayer hands up, because what we're doing is we are touching and agreeing with your baby blanket, with your journey, and letting you know you are most definitely, assuredly, absolutely complete in all things. So I honor you, King. I treasure you, King. And I thank you for being here. And thank Nichelle as well, because I know she set up the camera and made sure you were sitting in the right spot. We love you.
Like I said, she set it up. She set it up. So it's a good show. So
she set it up.
Thank
you. Thank you, Kyle. All right. I will talk to you soon. This is fabulous. Okay. My goodness. All right. Just press the X there. And then I'm going to bring on, she's going to come and do it. Yeah. Everyone's giving you, bye, Nichelle. We love you, girl.
Bye.
All right, we are gonna bring on somebody super special too. And I again, Khalil, and I hope that you're still listening, I just want to thank you for your transparency, and I want to thank you for just really sitting in your truth the way that you did. And I really want to thank you for stepping outside of your comfort zone, because that healed somebody else. And I hope that you feel healed by it too, friend, because it's beautiful that we have the opportunity to support you now. So now you have all these warriors praying over you and your journey, Nichelle's as well, but yours too. So now, you guys, I'm going to bring on somebody that's super, super special to me. He is one half of a couple that's very special to me that I spent Christmas with, that are dear friends of mine, Dominique and Jimmy Keys, who is also a musician and a friend and a new father of a beautiful little 3-month-old baby boy, and a beautiful Christmas present for sure. And he is going to share his journey today. And it's really special for me because this is somebody that is in my life, y'all. So I am going to find him right now. And he's a musician, like I said. I think he has a website. I think it's called J Key Music. We're going to have him tell us at the end of all of this exactly where you can find him. But he's coming on. There he is.
Hey, what's
Hey,
going
friend.
on?
How are you?
Good, good. Oh man.
Thank you for
So
being here.
absolutely. I'm so moved and forgive me for wearing the same exact thing as Khalil. I didn't know. It's just a coincidence.
Y'all got on the
But
same thing?
yeah, well, black polo.
I love it. That
I
makes
guess
it
that,
even better because you guys are kind of in the, you guys have been through similar experiences being in the same club. So it makes absolute sense that you be wearing the same thing. Hi, friend. I miss you.
yeah, I miss you too. I can't believe it's been a real year because it's like COVID, right?
Yeah,
So
it's been
it's
a real,
definitely no 2020.
no,
Yeah.
no 2020. For those that are joining us again, welcome to Warrior Wednesdays. This is the men edition, and this is my dear friend Jimmy Keys, who spends Christmas with me and my family. And I met him through Nico. Everybody on Warrior Wednesdays knows Nico as Uncle Clifford on P Valley, and we love him. And Jimmy and his wife, equally talented, amazing people, have their own fertility journey that you are really sharing for the first time, correct?
Yeah. I've opened up to maybe a handful of people, family and, couple close friends, but no, definitely this is the first time I've really shared any of this with anyone.
And I think that that's beautiful. And it's also the same as Khalil, the first time. And that is a point that we have to make because we are breaking curses today and we are stopping the suffering in silence today. So everybody put some prayer hands and spirit hands up for Jimmy as we get his conversation started here. So Jimmy, I'm going to ask you just like I asked the other brothers, have you always wanted to be a dad? Like what was going through your mind when you was growing up? Was being a daddy coming through?
Absolutely. 200%. I always wanted to be a father. I will say I was controlling about when I wanted to be a father, but I definitely always pictured having children. And, I grew up, with my mother and my father and a younger brother. And we kind of had the like nuclear family thing in a black suburb of Detroit. And, yeah, I always wanted what I had and to give that to a child or children rather.
Yeah. And then when you say you wanted to control when, was that about
Mhm.
age, career? Was it a combination of both, like from a male's perspective? Because I think that women and men are socialized different. So I think it's really interesting to have these talks because we get to learn a little bit about the process of trying to plan that out from the man's mind. So when you say I wanted to control when, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an artist and a creative, and I had a vision for what my early career and my early life and early experiences would be, and I felt like I knew myself and knew that I wanted to get out into the world and see the world and travel and go to other countries and do music and live, sort of a vagabond, but not, I wanted to live a carefree life to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want any restrictions. I knew that when I wanted to become a father, I wanted to be a good father and a present father And, I feel like I owe, in my younger years, I felt like I owed myself to be selfish and go out and experience the world. And, I wanted to do it when I only had to fend for myself. So, you know, I, you can't, it's funny. You can't control how things go in life, but you work towards different things. And I envisioned, I was, okay, so I have a platinum record, and then I buy the house, and then I'll be ready to have the kids. And then, that's how it'll be. And then if I have to go on the road, we'll be able to hire 5 nannies. And, that's young me talking. So,
That's okay because I'll still be nanny number 2 or 3. Like y'all still got me, so don't worry about it. But we always do that. Is that we plan something and God is like, really though? Like He's in charge of the timing of things, right? So how did
absolutely.
you tell us a little bit about? I mean, I know how you met Dom, but can you tell us a little bit about meeting your beautiful, amazing, and newly a mother wife, Dominique?
Yes, yes. So we met back in undergrad. I was a freshman and she was a sophomore. I saw her doing poetry, and I first met her through a mutual friend. Her best friend actually lived in my dorm. So, I was very active on campus. So I went to this poetry night and I heard her spit. And instantly I like fell for her right there. Like I heard these words, I fell for her. It'd be a long time before we got together, but I fell for her right then and there. And so, we continued to be friends. We dated for a second. She resisted for a while. I pulled back, and eventually slow and steady wins the race. And we ended up getting together in college and have been sweethearts ever since. We both, after undergrad, we moved to New York. She went before me, and then I followed shortly after, or a short 2 years after, which was, challenging, long distance. But yeah, so that's kind of the journey. We both went out to the East Coast to pursue our passions, to work, to plant our flag in our given career. She's an artist as well. And so we both were kind of on the same page that we wanted to, a lot of people, let me take it a step back. A lot of people in other careers and other professions don't necessarily understand that the life of an artist is one where you have to be comfortable with instability or having an unstable life. Sometimes you'll be overbooked. Sometimes things will be going really good, and then you'll have droughts where there's no work for a while. And so we understood that young and wanted to, in a sense, pay our dues and get to a place in our career where we had some level of stability, or at least we were a little ahead and had a cushion, so to speak. So, yeah,
Y'all have done that beautifully. I can personally attest to how iron sharpens iron in this relationship here, because like you said, you guys are both artists. You're both independently successful at what you do. You with your music, Dom with her writing. For those that don't know, Dominique is an extremely successful, award-winning playwright and wrote on television shows, Shameless and all the things. My mother, if she's still on here, she owes a special thank you to Dom, because if anybody was, when Broadway was open, the Temptations musical, Dominique wrote the book for that, and I took Mom to see that for Mother's Day, since we're here on a fertility talk. And Jimmy has been a successful musician for a very long time. So this has, your artistic journeys have always been like at the forefront of me knowing both of you. And then we also think about how we fit children into that world. So can you start us off about when you guys decided, let's try for a baby, and how that came to be?
Yeah, yeah. So after years of being together, we decided to get married, and we got engaged in 20. Well, we finally got married. It was a process. Uh, but we got married in 2013. We had an engagement. First we wanted to do a destination, then we changed it. But we finally got married in 2013, and we started like a year after um, on the fertility journey.
Okay, now were you starting on the fertility? Did you know you were have to go on a fertility journey, or were you starting to try naturally without having any indication that there might need to be assistance?
Yeah, I should rewind that. I should say we started trying a year later,
Okay.
and after some time went by, maybe it felt like about 2 years of trying. Um, my wife was definitely uh, forward thinking in that we need to go see a specialist, and we need to get some reproductive expertise along with us. I kind of was, the naively optimistic to the point of, oh, it's going to happen. Uh, I just I was like, oh, just be patient. It's when you least expect it. We're stressed out. It's da 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 da. And I think I was a little late. I was late to the party in seeking help and seeking consultation. So I definitely say that my wife was way more forward thinking than me. I wasn't against it, but I just felt like, oh, God got us. Let's just be patient.
But you
And
know what?
so,
That's really, I want to pause you there, because I think that that's how we all start, and I don't even think you were
mhm.
late to the party. God gifted you with a wife that was proactive in her way, that, took your faith, and God got it. And those things mixed together, you know what I mean? I think is the perfect combination of getting through a journey like this. And so I do think that it is kind of right on time. But as you were, so Dom was being more determined to say, well, let's just see what's going on, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
tell us about the first experience of going to the fertility clinic.
Okay, so going to the fertility clinic, we had a fairly pleasant experience, but um, we liked the first doctor. Well, we only had one fertility doctor, and we liked her a lot. Her bedside manner was top notch. She was so charming. She had a way of delivering the worst news in such a nice way. You walk out of the office and forget, like, yo, did she just tell me that, some devastating news?
Right.
But she was really great from that standpoint. But um, so going there, I was still reluctant just because of the environment. So we did it here in LA, and um, it was new for us. I mean, it was new for me and new for my wife and new for Dom. I think we were off put by just okay. So uh, IVF, IUI, fertility treatment is expensive. It's very expensive, and it's traditionally a sport for people that of affluence that can afford it.
Hmm.
And so there was an initial shock for us just being in an environment where you're around people who have affluence, and um, I brought to it my own biases, just having grown up in a working class community. Um, so there was the initial shock of being, even being in the environment and being in a position to be able to do it. Um, and so also we were maybe, I think the whole time we saw that fertility doctor for 3 years, and maybe the whole time we were there, I saw maybe two other black people, maybe two. One of them was a celebrity, and I won't say his name, but he was a celebrity, so we knew, okay, yeah, that's how he's here.
Hmm.
And
Now,
so,
I really want you to speak on that. I want to expand on two of the things that you said about um, the initial shock of the expenses and what's coming at you, right? When
mhm,
you
mhm.
enter this space, because oftentimes, we feel like people might stop at something because they don't
Mm-hmm.
have the resources right then and there available. One of the things that I always say is throw yourself an egg shower, throw yourself an IVF shower, but it's also a personal and a private thing, right? So you don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to put it out there, or maybe some people do, but can you talk a little bit about just, again, and I'm going to keep saying this as a man, what it felt
Mm-hmm.
like hearing like, yo, there's thousands and thousands of dollars that need to be spent in order for us to even begin this process.
Yeah. I mean, money aside, like my, I guess the thing that never quite settled with me was when they would break down the statistics and how likely it was, like, if this will work, like, I'll pay to I'll do whatever I got to do. Like, just, I'll find a way to to pay for this. And, yeah, I think, my initial thing was just disbelief. Like, I wasn't sure, you know, if this is even practical, what we're doing right now, especially when you start talking more than one cycle of doing this. And I explained to people, I eventually, my family didn't know what was going on with us right away. But eventually, when I did tell them, the best way I could explain to them, I was like, hey, every time you go through one of these cycles, like we just did, it's like buying a car outright. And then my parents finally got it, like, oh, wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at a certain point when I was looking at it, I was just thinking like, man, this is like tuition. Like if we adopted, like this is like the kid's tuition.
Mm-hmm.
And, but there is still a piece of you that wants to, a piece of us that wants to see our DNA in
Mm-hmm.
someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part that people grapple with, and at least for me, I could say, and I think my wife, we wanted to see our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
We thought, we love each other so much, we've been together so long. Why wouldn't God want our DNA to reproduce?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, after being hesitant, things were going good for us career-wise. So I just said, you know what? We both came to terms. We said, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, once I got, it took me a while to get past the stigma of science. And then I just, as time marched on and it wasn't happening naturally, I eventually was just like, yo, however it works,
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
science can do it, so be it.
It's interesting. Dom said that it was a lot of money for a bunch of maybes and zero babies, and
Yeah.
it's an investment. And as well as Regina Townsend. Regina is the founder of the Broken Brown Egg, who is a fertility advocate, says it's a chance, not a cure. And it really is. And so I'm really glad that you mentioned the word statistics, because when you go into these fertility clinics, you are really hearing not so great news, even if you do it, like in terms of the statistics of having an actual live birth. And so I think that's where the faith comes in. And I also
Mhm.
just wanted to touch a little bit on the fact of seeing only 2 other Black people in the room. I really want to touch on it because when I went to freeze my eggs, I was the only African American woman that I ever saw. And I was in the office all the time. And I think my mom can even
Mhm.
attest to it. And so I'm
Mhm.
there almost 14 days in a row, and I'm seeing myself.
Yeah.
What was that? Because this is why these talks are important, is because
Yeah.
we don't often seek the assistance that is available to us. And we don't really see ourselves doing it. So it doesn't feel like our thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, it's,
So can you speak
yeah.
a little bit about what it felt like to go into a room and be like, yo, there's like 1, 2, wow, we're third. Okay. What was that like?
Mm. It's isolating. It's lonely. It's isolating. And the people that I would normally lean on and explain it to have no idea, can't even fathom what this is like. And, for us, we come from a Rust Belt Midwest city. And so, definitely like our family back home, they have no idea. Like, at least like, I think people that grow up on the coast, on the East Coast, the New Yorks, the LAs, the big metropolises where you have these big creative industries, it's a little less of a thing out. I mean, it's a little less of an enigma. And, here in LA, it's not so taboo. I mean, people understand it more. So, it was isolating though. But, I also, like I said, I'm not originally from here. We just moved to LA, during this time shortly after we got married. And so it wasn't like I grew up here and had history and roots here and family here. So it was lonely.
It was lonely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the real feeling. It was lonely. It was lonely
Mhm.
for me too. And you had Dom. So take us now through a little bit about the journey of in and out of fertility clinics, of the
Yeah.
IVF, of a little bit about what you experienced as a man going through this with your wife.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's Warrior Wednesdays, and I never felt like a warrior when I was going through it. I felt like a vet, like an army vet. You
Wow.
know, um, it was traumatic. We literally, so we're at like, I don't want to say the apex of our career, but we're definitely we're on this track where we're doing better than we've ever done. And there's all this visibility and excitement around us, and things are happening for us career-wise. Seeds that we planted years ago, and so it to people outside looking in, it feels like they're riding high. They're on this wave, and the truth of the matter was, um, we were both kind of spiraling. And it looks like, hey, you got all these blessings, you got this, you got that, and we are privately like having meltdowns,
Mm.
private meltdowns, and we're only leaning on each other for the longest. And my wife was able to um, find more community than I was. She definitely felt alone at times, but she was able to kind of find people, here and there who stood in solidarity. And not a lot of them black, though. I think maybe I can think of maybe one or two black women that she was able to kind of stand in silent solidarity with. But yeah, when we started the journey, going to the doctors, they said to me up front that, oh, you're gonna have to come here a lot. And I underestimated that. It was like a part-time job going there. And then we lived in the valley, and we would be traveling to the other side of the hill, 3, 4 days a week sometimes. And it just took a toll. I said to myself, I don't know how anybody that works uh, a regular job, a desk job that requires them to be at a physical place could do this.
Mm.
We both work for ourselves, and it was like taking up whole days, and we planned our weeks around it and had to plan our life around it. And, you know, the other thing about it is, you know, it's, we kept having this, almost like you seen that commercial where, the guy is like, he has $1 on the fishing line. And he's like, oh, you can get it, and he
Yeah.
snatches it away.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. It's like our hope. That hope was on that fishing line. And every time we went to that doctor, you
Mm.
know, she would deliver a message of, she'd run down the statistics, but she'd also deliver a message of hope. And
Oh.
so it felt like we kept being strung along, not in a way that, was malicious or anything, but she would say, there's a 30% chance of this, or based on where, what your numbers are here and your numbers are there, there's a, 61% chance if you make it to this point. So we just had this reoccurring cycle for 3 years
Wow.
of, of getting hope. We're hoping to be in the smaller window of possibility. And all throughout this process, we're also being required to travel. And people are wanting us to be in New York or to be in Texas or to be here. And, it's hard to tell people that people understand when you're pregnant. I can't travel. but people don't, or I can't commit to this because I'm expecting, or our family is expecting. People don't understand I'm trying to get pregnant, or we're working towards it, or I can't come to this thing because my doctors are in LA. And so, we we were at our wits' end trying to do all of this, and be everything for everyone. We had doctors on both coasts, which was, no one, I don't recommend that if you don't have to. It's hard enough to find one doctor you like, let alone to, you know, have to go between doctors. But yeah, it was just it was a rough journey. And so we got to the point where none of it worked. We tried everything you can think of, IUI, IVF, um, egg retrievals. Every step of the way, we're given this false hope, or we're given hope that there's a chance, and none of it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 2019, we said, F it. We're going to go out the country. We over the summer, like our last try at it was unsuccessful. We had an egg that arrested, like it stopped growing on its, it looked like it was about to become a blastocyst,
Mm-hmm.
which would have put us in a much higher likelihood of being able to conceive via IVF,
IVF.
and that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so we said, you know what? We're just going to leave the country. We're going to Bali. We're just going to take time off, and we're going to do it. So
Okay, before you go to
that,
Bali, I just want to explain to a couple people that may not know that are joined to it. What, first of all, Jimmy, you said like a mountain full of amazing things that have to deal with health inequities, that have to deal with the fact, that the laws and the changes that advocates like myself are trying to create, so more people of color have the opportunity and take the opportunity to get assistance in reproduction. Talking about the fact that, when you're pregnant, people understand when you can't travel, but when you're going through assisted reproduction and IVF and IUI and going back and forth to the doctor's office every other day, that it's not always as commonplace to say, I'm going through fertility treatments, which is why I can't be there. And that we don't often give the same amount of support we don't give the same amount of support to people, whether single, married, coupled, partnered, whatever, that are needing assistance to create a family than we do to those that are already in the pregnant stage or having a baby. And it's times like these and talks like these where we can start to exact change. Just by you speaking up, Khalil speaking up, and Ryan speaking up, now other men of color are going to see, hey, that's me, or it might be me. And now I know that there's a process to this, and I got to keep the faith and keep going. And so just to back up a little bit, what he said about blastocysts, for those that don't know, we had an embryologist on, Dr. Kircho, who's the scientist that creates the embryos in the lab. So that's taking the egg and the sperm. And what they do is they watch them day by day, and they divide. All the cells start to divide. And when they get to what's called a blastocyst stage that Jimmy indicated, that is when it's the highest probability that implantation would happen and it would result in a pregnancy. So we try to get those embryos to blastocyst stage. So that's what he explained. And I just wanted to make sure so we can follow. So now I want to go to Bali. So F it. And we're going to Bali because this is taking a toll on you mentally.
yeah,
Dominique,
yeah,
physically. Correct? So you
yeah.
and you're married. You still have to, and you're artists, and you still have to be your people. And this is a
Yeah,
lot. So tell us a little bit
yeah,
about that, and then take us to Bali.
absolutely. So, everybody's case is different. In our case, we had to take shots. There were shots that we had to administer, and they have to be done at a certain time, certain doses. And my background is not medical.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always present to help my wife. I was helping Dom do the shots, and I would administer the shots for her. That was my, me standing with her was like, you know what, I'll do these for you. So we had our ritual where we would do shots, and but every time we did the shot, it was like a trigger. It was
Yeah.
reminding us we have to do it. Shots leave bruises. Shots have side effects. Shots, medicine. There are different things that go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was our life for 3 years, on and off, and you know, it it took a toll on us emotionally. It took a toll. Um, Dom has a spiritual counselor that she talks to, and
Mm-hmm.
she found throughout the process that really helped her. Um, I opted to do the old school way, which I don't recommend. It's why I did what I saw, done by the generation before me. I held it in. I poured my uh, pain and anger and rage and frustration into other things like music and art, and seldom talking about exactly what it was. I just poured the energy, the wild energy into it,
And
to keep my mind off.
why do you say, because I love that you said this, okay? And so I just wanted to pause because it's so important what you're saying, because
Mhm.
these experiences are, they are hard and they are traumatic. They are
Mhm.
trauma.
Mhm.
And trauma leaves not just a physical scar, but it leaves an emotional scar. And what it does is it introduces triggers, like you said. But I
Yeah.
wanna talk. I just want you to elaborate a little bit of why you're saying I did what I saw modeled, or I didn't necessarily do what you're saying you think you should have done, or what you may have done differently if you could do it over again, by keeping it in. And I love
Yeah.
that you did channel it through music, but tell us a little bit about the keeping it in. Because did you talk to friends? Did you talk to other men?
I did eventually, but if we're talking about a 6 year journey, like maybe 4.5 years in.
Say it, Jimmy.
And so 4.5 years of holding it in is a long time.
Yes,
So
it
by the
is.
time I did, and even when I did eventually open up to friends about it, it was just me getting it out. It wasn't that they understood. No one had walked this path. All of my friends had kids. Um, you know, the closest thing I had was a friend who didn't, who's a single father. And so he kind of understood like a non-traditional, be flexible, go with it type mentality towards parenting and becoming a parent. But that was the closest thing I had. What I didn't realize was all while that was going on, another good friend of mine who I just don't talk to all the time was going through the same thing I was going through. Not for
Mm.
as long, but very similar.
Did y'all hear what
So I didn't.
Jimmy just said? That a longtime friend of yours that you didn't know about at the time was going through the exact same thing that you were going through. So you didn't tell him and he didn't tell you. Did y'all hear that? Is that the case, Jimmy?
That is exactly the case. Like we're finding this out like a month ago, and
Ooh.
we were both saying to each other like, "Man, I wish I would have known that you were going through that," and he vice versa.
I wish I would
And
have
so,
known. And what you are doing right now is giving somebody else permission to make the other choice. So thank you for saying that, because it's very real and very okay that you can have somebody in your life going through the exact same thing and neither people open up. It's real. It happens. I remember that a friend of mine who's now in heaven, but she was suffering through colon cancer and was crying one day because they told her before radiation she would have to freeze her eggs. And I said, don't worry, I'm on my way. I froze mine. I'm going to come there and give you the first shots. And I'm terrified of needles. But when I got there, she was like, Lay, you froze your eggs? And here was my friend fighting for her life. And part of what was going to make her fight longer was the possibility of having a child one day. And I hadn't even shared with her that I did this thing. So it's very normal, but
Mm-hmm.
that's why I do this. That's
Yeah.
why I do this. So that we know that we can talk to each other, that we are not alone, that there's more of us than less of us. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm so glad that you as a man are saying this, because men need to see this. So you kept it in, and but now take us back to, and it took 4 years before you really started telling a small group of people. And one of the things I want to mention in that, Jimmy, is I do really believe that we have to be mindful of who we share this stuff with, because this is
Absolutely.
this is trauma, and this is the most, intimate thing. Not everybody gets a right to your story. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'm selective. Okay, I use the platform to help others be selective about who you share it with. But we have to know that there are people that relate to this exact same experience, exact same pain, and can amen before you even get done the sentence. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So thank you for
Yeah.
that. Thank you for sharing that. So now take us back to Bali. So we're effing it. Didn't work.
Yeah. At Bali, we had been considering adoption throughout this whole journey. That was like a thing we would come back to, and we had made up our mind um, to adopt. And so we were just like, hey, you know what? Take a break. We'll go to Bali. We're going to continue with adoption, which we've been doing in slow motion because we've been doing both, fertility treatments and the like. So we go to the doctor to get ready to go to Bali. We go to get our shots. So we got to get the hepatitis shot, and when you travel abroad, malaria pills and things like that. And so we found out when we went to the doctor that we were actually pregnant naturally. And this is after 6 years of trying, after all types of fertility treatments and everything you could think of. We found out we were pregnant naturally, and our doctor, he was happy for us, and it was one of the most, it was joyous moments of our life. It suddenly all made sense,
Mm-hmm.
and we kept it. We didn't tell anybody, obviously, just because it was a rough journey for us, and so we just kept it to ourselves, and we decided that um, we would the end of the first trimester would be a week after Christmas. So we decided, my parents were coming out, and during this process, um, Dom's father fell ill. He had gone into assisted living, so that was another level of stress for us. And then my mother was diagnosed with stomach cancer. That was another thing I was holding in addition to fertility, not telling anybody at my mother's wishes, because she didn't want anyone to
Mm-hmm.
know that she had cancer. And so those were some of the things we were holding in and battling. And so we decided when my mother and father came for Christmas, we would tell everybody, hey guys, we're pregnant. And that'll be some great news because everybody, by this point, everybody knows what we're going through. And we started to update our parents on, hey, we're going to the doctor again, and we'll be back on Thursday. And so a week before Christmas, I'll never forget, it was December 19th. We went for a regular checkup because we're with the doctor, the gynecologist rather. And so the doctor told us that there was no heartbeat, and there should be a heartbeat by now. And I collapsed. I went into the next room and collapsed. It was my heart sunk. I've never felt a feeling like that until after, I had never felt a feeling like that before that point. And so, we were just out of it, so about a week before Christmas, and I had to call my parents and say, hey, we were pregnant and now we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I'm sorry.
they came. Yeah.
And let me
So
pause you there. You guys know what to do. We do prayers and rainbows. So, and we pause at that moment, Jimmy, to say, I'm sorry for your loss, and to honor the life that you and Dom created and that watches over you. So I hope you see the prayer hands, and I want those rainbows to come up to y'all. And we bless you both in this moment. We bless you both in this moment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
And so, yeah. And so, my parents did end up coming, and her family, actually, her brother and his wife and their kids, and my mother-in-law, they all jumped on a flight and came out, and we had one big house for Christmas, one big house full of family, and it was, it was good that they came out, and supported us just in that sad moment. And so, that was Christmas. Couple weeks later, Dom's dad would go into the hospital and ultimately go on hospice and pass away. And then, while we were planning his funeral, we got the news that my mom's cancer came back. And this was right when COVID's about to happen. So, we bury her father. I get on a flight, leave for New York, and then back to LA. And, I'm like, hey, Mom, we gonna fight this. I'm gonna be back. We'll be with you. And I didn't realize that was the last time I was ever gonna see her, because the world was gonna shut down and she was gonna go into the hospital and no visitors and everything like that. And so, it was pain on pain on pain. And so fast forward 2020, we just sat in the bubble and wanted it to be over with. And it gets down to the end of the year, and we get this call on December 15th, and they say, hey, baby boy was born in Orlando. I know you wanted a girl, but do y'all want to be parents? Oh man. So
God is good.
yeah. And so most people get 9 months. We had about 9 hours notice. We jumped on a flight during COVID, terrified. It was coming up on that time of year where we had just, we had lost our baby last year. So we jumped on that flight, went to Orlando. After a couple of days with our son's birth mom, we were there for a few days, and we were on pins and needles because, she could have changed her mind. She told us to come, and she kept the baby for a couple of days, and said she just needed to pray about it. And, it got down to day 4, and we were like, well, we understand she needs to pray about it, but, we can't keep taking ourselves through emotional stuff. We're going to give ourselves a cutoff. If she don't make up her mind this weekend, we'll just head home, because, the longer a birth mother stays with the child, the more likely it is that they won't go through with the adoption. So we were like, you know what, we just, we'll give her the weekend. And, we didn't, we was like, you know what, we won't pressure her. We won't call today. We'll just kind of back off it. We've been here a couple days, and we have met her and met him. And so that Saturday we got a call. He said, hey, she's ready to give him over to you. And so we went over, we prayed with her. We met her at the adoption office, held hands, said a prayer together, all wishing for the best for him, centering him and putting him first and his well-being, and just ask God to give us all strength in our respective duties as adoptive parents, birth parents, and the whole nine. And so we did it. We took him home. I was terrified. I was overjoyed and terrified at the same time. He came 5 weeks early. He wasn't due yet. And so I get in the shower. He's home. We're home. We get, the starter kit, baby accessories, what we can get real quick. And I get in the shower, and it hits me like a ton of bricks. I I break down crying because I realized that today is December 19th, which was the exact day a year earlier that we had found out we lost our baby. And 1 year to the day, we signed the paperwork on our son, Masai, and brought him home with us. And the kicker is the way I figured it out was because I scrolled back through old text messages and I saw what my mom had said to me a year ago on that day. And that's how I figured out that it was exactly a year ago. So, yeah, it was a long journey to get here.
Jimmy, Dom, Masai, Angel baby, mom and dad, we bless you and we honor you. Y'all put a bunch of flowers in the chat right now. And prayer hands, just everything beautiful, because this has been such a beautiful, hard, traumatic, but blessed journey. One thing that I always try to do in my life is to look back and trace God's hand and find where he was writing the story that I didn't know. And when you said, I knew it was a year to the day because I had looked back at something I had of a text of my mom. And I knew what she said to me on this exact day that we lost our child. So I knew it was a year to the day later. And I just think of your mom, a grandmom in heaven, taking care of that December 19th angel. She's right up there and blessing you in this moment. Jimmy, you have said it all, friend. You have said it all. And I just want to thank you for trusting this space and for sharing this beautiful truth with all of us, because this has empowered so many people to believe and to remember and to hold on to their faith, because there's so many times where we lose sight of it while we're going through this. I'm so glad for every day of your 6 years, even the hard ones, because Masai needed you to be who you are today and needed Dom to be who she is today, to say yes and amen and bring him to his home. And I can't wait to meet him post-COVID. And I'm just, I'm blessed and honored. Now, I'm going to say one thing before I let you go. And I want you guys to always hold these men in your prayers and in this space. But I want you to know that people are praying for you even when you don't know it. Everybody here knows that I have a fertility movie that I wrote that's being produced. But what they don't know, and I told this to Jimmy yesterday, he may have shared it with Dom, but I told this.
I didn't share it.
You didn't share it with Dom?
She's about to find out now. She's about to find out now.
All right, so this is Dominique. I need you to listen up, shorty. New mommy, and I think she wrote here that the baby has been sound asleep this whole time, like knowing mommy and daddy are blessing people right now. Dominique, I want you to hear this and hear me clearly. Dominique and I have never spoke about the fertility journey of the 6 years, even though she's my friend. And that's why I said you have to be mindful and specific with who you choose to open up to. But I had a feeling, and it might be because of what I'm experiencing in my own space. But Dominique, when you put up a beautiful post about the journey, and I wrote to you that there have been earthly angels praying for you on your behalf before you even knew it. In the fertility movie, the last draft, they told me over Thanksgiving. So I'm holding December 19th, what Jimmy told us about that day. They told me over Thanksgiving holiday that I had 4 days to hand in the draft, that the long date that they gave me was no more. It has to be in 4 days. And I wrote this character that was pregnant in the first half and the last quarter, the last third of the movie. And I kept wanting to change that character's name to Dominique. And I didn't know why, but it was just on my spirit. And I called Nico and I said, I really want to change this character's name to Dominique because I feel that there's a baby coming. And I don't know anything. I just feel like I'm supposed to have a pregnant character, a baby on the way, and the character's name should be Dominique. And without saying anything else, Nico said, trust what the Spirit is telling you. And I went back into the draft and I edited the name that I had originally, and I changed the name to Dominique. And that Dominique at the end of the movie had a boy. And December and when I was home for Christmas is when I read Dominique's post that you guys adopted a little baby boy. Dom, I never told you that. Nico, tell her it's true. Because it is true. And so just know that there are people right here that speak your language, y'all, that are praying for you when you don't even know it, and that are speaking with God and touching into the life that you are going to have. So, Jimmy, I hope you see all this love. You see all these comments coming your way?
I'm scrolling right now while you were telling the story. I didn't see any of them.
Dominique's like, incredible, get out of my life. I can't get out of your life, girl. It's the truth. Nico, am I lying? He said, facts, child. I knew I needed a character that was pregnant, specifically named Dominique. And at the end, it was a boy. And I handed in that draft Thanksgiving, my love. So that was before all of this came to pass. But as Nico said, God is insane. Yes, he is. And he is real. Jimmy, all right. Ryan brought us in with some prayer. Can you take us out with some prayer? Because this has been an anointed day. So every head bowed, every eyes closed. Jimmy, can you take us out?
Absolutely. I can take us out, and I want to shout out Ryan and Khalil. I watched both their stories, and I instantly felt less alone, and it really gave me the confidence to come on here and tell my story as well too. So I want to look at the camera and let them know that they impacted me and gave me the strength to get on here and go through with it, because I couldn't back out to the last minute. I was scared. No. And I want to
go ahead.
And I just also want to thank my wife, Dominique, for just being so supportive and being my rock through all this.
I love it. And before I bow my head, and I was going to say my thank yous after, I want to thank Ryan Vincent Ford and Khalil Polston and Jimmy Keys for being our warrior men. You guys have changed the face of fertility. Literally, you have literally changed the conversation, and the curse is broken. I thank you all. Ryan, I thank you. Khalil, I thank you. Jimmy, I thank you. I love you all. This community is always here for you, no matter what. Thank y'all for being the men that you are and for blessing us with all of this truth. So now, Jimmy, you go ahead and take it out. And thank you guys for being here today.
All right. Dear God, Creator, we thank you for bringing us all together in this virtual space at this time when we cannot share physical space. We thank you for the gift of Kellee and this work that she is doing is so important, along with all of the warriors that are here every week. We ask that you put a healing hand on everyone out there affected by these issues, men and women, and hold them up in strength, love, and solidarity during this time. We ask that you allow everyone to find peace, their own respective peace. And we thank you for allowing us to see another day and to continue to fight and be warriors and hopefully touch other people and allow them to live in their truth. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for being here. Somebody saying, yes, yes, absolutely. Real men stand up. Let's speak our truths and support one another. And that's exactly what it is. Everyone is sending you guys blessings. Again, Ryan, Khalil, Jimmy, I honor you. I salute you. I thank you. I'm with you today and all days. So thank you and amen to you. And I
I
will
love you
talk to you
too.
soon. I love you, baby. I will talk to y'all soon. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Oh my goodness, you guys. Okay, Jimmy's going to X out. I'm going to close off and then I'm going to save everything. Look at Jimmy
All
reading.
right. There we go. There we go.
I love it.
Okay, I didn't get to read all of them, but all right,
Well,
I'm
your
out.
wife is a writer. I know she's clocking it.
Okay. All right.
All right, I love you, friend.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye, baby. Thank you. Oh my goodness, you guys. This was uh I have no more words left. There's nothing else to say. The king said it all. They prayed us in, they prayed us out, they shared their truth, they shared their discomfort, they shared their pain, and we don't see that every day. So we honor them and we salute them, and this space will always hold them. And we will change the things that we need to change in the healthcare system. We will change the things that we need to change in mental health so that we all know that we can talk to each other, so brothers can look at other brothers and say, I'm going through this, and it can be understood, and relatable, and it's something that we all can share. This is traumatic experiences that we go through, but we don't go through them alone. We don't have to suffer in silence. I am so honored to have the opportunity for God to use Warrior Wednesdays as a vessel for these beautiful three men to share with us today. And I'm especially honored that the space of warriors that I share with every Wednesday kept this space so beautiful and so at peace and so full of love and faith for them. So let's continue to do that. Until I see you guys next week, Ryan, Khalil, Jimmy, I thank you. I honor you. I salute you. I love you. You guys did an amazing thing today, and it is going to last forever. So I thank you. I'm going to post all of this. All right, you guys, I love you. Take care, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.